Yar. Can you hear me?
Yes.
We
Yep.
hear you good, Wendy.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay.
Okay, good. So you're in, huh? This Kathy.
Yes,
Sounds
but
good.
I'm on the road, and I was kind of hoping, like you, Kathy, to not have to stay on, but I will do my very best.
Okay. Yeah. So, okay, well, let's get started then. Thank you all for being here. I see about 8 or 9 participants. And so I would like to say welcome this morning to our meeting, and let's do self-introductions. Kathy Romer's Vice Chair, filling in for Norm until he comes on.
Eric Olson with the Commission.
Wendy Pratt with the Commission.
Ellen Kress with the Commission.
Let's continue with people on Zoom first.
Loretta Strickland with the Commission.
Rachel Misnick with the Commission.
Okay, is that about it, Crystal? Anyone by phone, please introduce yourself this morning.
Jerry Hobel-Henrich for the Commission.
This is Benjamin Kelly with the Idaho Association of Soil Conservation Districts.
Welcome, Benjamin.
Crystal Rosen with the Commission.
Brenda Charles with the Commission.
Rob Sepich, Legislative Services Office.
And this is Steve Strack. I'm with the Attorney General's Office.
Chuck Pincer with the Soil and Water Conservation Commission.
Joe Peterson with the Commission.
Commissioner Romer, that's all that we have on the
Okay.
line at this time.
Okay, very good, thank you. So, and welcome everyone. It looks like we're gonna have a fairly short meeting. We'll move quickly through it if we can. So, Crystal, if you would do the roll call, please, for the commission members.
Chairman Norman Wright. Commissioner Kathy Romer.
Here.
Commissioner Eric Olson.
Here.
Commissioner Wendy Pratt.
Here.
Okay, very good. We've established that we do have a quorum then, and we'll move on to item number 2 on the agenda, which is partner reports. The only thing I would note with that is I received an email from Delwyn saying that Curtis has a report but may come in a little bit later. Is that true, Delwyn?
That's correct, Kathy. Yes.
Okay. So Benjamin, as a partner, do you have something you would like to report to us this morning?
Sure, thank you very much. Yes, just to run through a few things, and I see that you do have, Dylan has some reports as well covering annual conference, division meetings, those types of things. As of now, we're still moving forward with our annual conference on November 12th or 9th through 12th at the Riverside Hotel. We're looking forward to that. We have some pretty good guests, and I think I talked to Curtis last week, and just to check up if he had heard anything, but it sounds like we're still a go with NRCS Chief Terry Cosby, and he responded back real quickly. If you remember, you've been around for a little while. He spent some time in Idaho working, filling in, and so it would be good to see him again and hear about his new role as the chief of NRCS, and then also some presentations on drought, and I'm sure it'll lead into fire discussion as well. But we have Governor Brad Little with Speaker Scott Bedke, and then Water Resource Board member Brian Olmstead, who is also a supervisor on a local district. So anyways, we're looking forward to that, and then being able to head down to the historical museum and have lunch and have a good time there. So anyways, we're moving forward with that. And also with division meetings, we have all our division meetings are going to be in October this year. And we have all the dates set for that, those kinds of things. I've seen a few agendas come out and a few more that I've been in contact with different divisions, and they're getting ready to put those out. And then also, and maybe this is, I'll let Curtis speak to this, but I do want to just say how much we appreciate that NRCS and Curtis in particular, as of last Thursday and Friday, when all these meetings started happening with USDA back in Washington, D.C., and all the restrictions that they were starting to hand out or send out to different states or all 50 states. He kept us in the loop all the way along, and we were able to send some stuff out there. I know Delwyn was informed of those things as well. And, I've already gotten a number of calls from different districts, and it's tough for our districts right now, not being able to, number one, meet in their offices, but and have their administrators there. And so we just continue moving forward through those type of things. And then also I want to say I appreciate Delwyn getting in contact, and it's on your agenda, but I would think our board would be very favorable towards the agenda item having to do with your guys' budget, and really appreciate that nod towards increasing trustee and benefits, the 2-to-1 match for that $74,300. And I don't believe you guys have taken action on that, but would be a great opportunity to work with.
Okay.
Benjamin,
Is that all, Benjamin? Did he fall off?
Apparently, yes.
I don't know if he
Okay.
fell off or accidentally got muted. Or if he lost connection, I'm not sure.
Okay. Yeah, it just suddenly dropped off, so it was a little bit unusual.
While he was speaking though, Norman did join us on Zoom, it looks like.
Oh, great. Okay. Yeah, I see a
See my name, don't you?
hey, Norman, there you are.
I was having a tough time getting on. I kept clicking on the links and kept bringing up the dog meeting.
Welcome, Chairman.
We're glad that you could join us.
Yeah, so Chairman Wright, I'll just turn the meeting over to you.
No,
This
go
is
right ahead.
Well, I may have to drop off, but I'll continue on. We won't spend too much time with the back and forth, but I'll continue on. And will you be on for the rest of the meeting, Chairman Wright?
I hope to be, yes.
Oh, okay, very good. Well, I'll continue on just a couple items here. I think we lost Benjamin, or he was done. We'll just, if he comes back on, we'll let him finish if he had something more to say. We were at partner reports. So are there any more partner reports at this time? One thing I would like to say, I thought I heard somebody, Delwyn, if you can help me, from the AG's office. Is that the attorney that has been, that will be serving in Chantel's place now?
Yeah, Commissioner Stephen Strack is with us from the AG's office, and he is standing in. In fact, I believe he postponed his retirement to stand in for a while until Chantel's permanent replacement gets hired or brought on board or up to speed. Maybe Stephen can speak to that if he would like to right now.
Yeah, I'd like to hear from him.
Yes, this is Stephen Stroud. Chantel moved to a different section within the office, so I volunteered to take over her caseload until we are able to hire a replacement. And we are right now in the process of interviewing candidates to find a permanent replacement for Chantel, who would be the permanent attorney for the commission. But in the meantime, I'm happy to serve, and any questions, please let me know.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Chantel always kept us on the straight and narrow, and in the interim, I'm expecting that you will do the same. So moving on to item number 3 on the agenda review. Are there any things to be added to the agenda? Any changes to the agenda at this time that the commission sees or from staff that we need to make note of, vote on? Very good. We'll just continue on then. Non-action items, item number 4 on the agenda, Conservation Reserve Enhancement Program update coming from Chuck Pencer. So Mr. Pencer, you are on.
Okay, thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. Just a real brief scenario where we're at. We're busy trying to get the last of the re-enrollments completed for the CREP program. That deadline is next week with FSA, where they have to get all their information entered into the national database and so forth. So we are currently still waiting for about 8 to 10 more water right reviews to come back from Water Resources before we can finalize that process with some of those contract participants. It looks like, in rough terms, I won't bore you with specific numbers, but in rough terms, we'll have about 6,000 acres or so that will not re-enroll from the original agreement. Various reasons on that stem from a lower rental rate obligation up there in Jefferson. They have chosen to just go ahead and either farm or just sell their water rights outright. And other ones throughout the different counties, surprisingly, are opting to want to go back to farming again. They want either their kids or their nephew, whoever, to have a chance of doing some farm work. And I tallied it up in rough terms that there's about 1,600 acres out there on several contracts that just did not meet the stand requirements needed that would qualify through the FSA rules to re-enroll those acres. So as we stand now, it looks like we'll be, like I said, about 6,500 acres short. We do have another 21 new offers that have come in. We'll start working on those the week after next. Right now, the re-enrollments are the top priority, because if we don't get those done by next week, they no longer qualify for the CREP program. Basically, that's about it. It's just a lot of moving parts, as you can imagine, and we're just trying to come down the home stretch on these, get them done for another year. Any questions?
Oh, yeah, that's what I was going to ask, Chuck. Thank you. So any questions from the commission members or even staff for Chuck at this time?
Commissioners?
Yes.
I'd like to point out that we're watching this, and Chuck is tracking this really closely, because this relates directly to that. Our estimations, our best guesses on how many acres would re-enroll and how many new contracts we would get, which is going to directly impact how many dollars we need to go to the legislature for this coming session to secure the direct payment funds that we'll need to make the direct payments to the CREP landowners, CREP participants. And you might recall that our best estimates were that we would need $655,000 for fiscal 23 to meet those obligations. However, the governor's office and DFM requested that we not include that in our budget. They're negotiating how best to go about securing those funds. and they are also watching where we're at on re-enrolls, and so that as we get nearer to the 1st of October and definitely nearer to the beginning of the legislative session, we're hoping to have a lot firmer idea of what that real dollar value is that we're going to be going to the legislature for fiscal 23. So I appreciate what Chuck's doing and all the CREP staff out there. I know they're pushing really hard to get as many acres re-enrolled as we possibly can. So this is an important update, and I just appreciate that, Chuck.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't want to bore you with all the details because it's so fluid. What I say today will be different tomorrow, but that's just the general synopsis of that. And so we'll have a little bit more definitive numbers next month.
Oh, well, thank you, Commissioner Romer here. So yeah, I was wondering about the money, the dollars, and when Chuck, you say it is so fluid, I mean, that means the dollars are fluid too, the dollar amount, right?
Yeah, that's right. And each county, as you remember, pays different amounts for each county.
Yeah.
And so those rates are going to vary of how much we obligate the state funds for as well, by whatever county participates. So yeah, once we get those down, we'll have a pretty good estimate of what we'll be looking at, but we'll still be writing new contracts through December, January. That will be coming in at a later time. So, you know, we'll still have a lot closer figure on that, what to expect for the next, what we need to acquire for the next year.
Okay, and so I don't know if it was the last meeting, but last time Mr. Tominaga was on, I asked him about the assuredness from the legislature that these dollars would be available. And if I recall, he was very positive in reassuring us at that meeting that it shouldn't be a problem. So I've been a little bit nervous about that based on what we've been through the last legislative session or two. So I guess we can bank on it, so to speak. What have you heard about that, Delwyn? Anything?
Yeah, Commissioner, there seems to be, what I'm hearing is there's broad support for the CREP program amongst legislators, and Nate in the governor's office and Matt in the DFM both didn't express any qualms about our ability to count on those funds being there. It was just a matter of whether they were going to have the governor put it in his budget request in our budget, or handle it legislatively some other way. But I think that I don't sense there's an argument against funding CREP at this point.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
I don't want to interrupt. I don't want to interrupt too much, but Benjamin just called me and said that he got dropped off, Crystal, and so did Terry. So can you open them back up on the phone line?
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you, Eric.
Yeah.
The call cannot be completed as dialed. Please. Your call cannot be completed as dialed. Please consult your directory.
Try one more time, and then I'm just going to use the cell phone.
Working on that reconnect.
Okay. Yeah, if we can get Benjamin back, we'll let him finish. But if it's going to take a few minutes, I'll just move right along.
Welcome to Lumen Conferencing. Please enter your passcode followed by the pound or hash key, and I'll connect you. Thank you for joining Global Meet. When you hear the tone, you will be the second person to join the meeting.
Okay.
Is he back?
Someone is on.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sorry about that. I didn't even show until after Eric mentioned that you texted him that it wasn't connected anymore. I apologize.
No, that's all right. All right.
So Benjamin, yeah, your report did end rather abruptly, which I thought was somewhat unusual. We thought you probably got dropped off. So if you would like to pick up where you left off, we're ready to hear more from you, unless you were finished.
I think I was pretty much finished there, and if there's any questions, let me know, and I'll be on this line throughout the meeting. So.
Okay, and we just did finish with the item number 4 on the agenda, the Conservation Reserve Enhancement Program. And those materials are also available online if you want to review what Chuck went over, okay?
Sure, appreciate it.
Yeah, and if you have any questions, feel free to call Chuck or Delwyn. So they're up to speed on that. So moving on our non-action items, non-action item number 5, reports from commissioners and staff. So at this time, I'd just like to ask the commission members if you have anything that you'd like to share or report since our last meeting. This is the time to do it.
I can say aloha.
Okay.
Oh. This is the view I have today.
Oh, are you in your house?
Yes.
Oh, hip hip hooray. Great.
Nice.
We are a far-flung bunch today, aren't we? For sure.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Norman, I hope you're enjoying the sun. So, and Wendy's out traveling. Okay, hearing none from the commissioners then, we'll move on to Delwyn's report, our administrator's report.
Thank you, Commissioner. First thing on my report is a ISED division meeting schedule, and you see that in the handout. Benjamin is doing a good job of keeping me up to speed with as the actual agendas and the locations and so forth details come in. So as of right now, we have October 7th is Division 1, and I know Norman is going to be, Chairman Wright is going to be at Division 1. Division 2 is October 14th. Division 3, October 12th, 4, October 21st, 5 and 6, both on the 19th. So we'll hustle from St. Anthony down to Pocatello, probably for Division 5 meeting, and be able to hit both of those in one day. Annual conference, like Benjamin spoke to this, is October 9th, and they have graciously scheduled a listening session for us from the hours of 4 to 5 p.m. on Tuesday the 9th, which is an opportunity for us to do our annual listening to questions, comments, concerns, constructive criticisms, or whatever from districts. So I'm looking forward to that. And as Benjamin mentioned, that is at the Riverside here in Boise again. And we're all keeping our fingers crossed that this is going to be able to be a face-to-face. And we're even working on our end as we watch things develop on the possibility of bringing our staff into town for some team building and participation in the ISED conference, if it turns out that we can get our pencils sharpened enough to do that. I have heard nothing new on the commission's or the governor's plans for appointing commissioners to fill our 2 vacancies. We'll certainly update you on that should I hear anything at any point. Staffing updates, our announcement for our open deputy administrator position closed on September 14th. And we will not know how many people applied for that until we hear back from DHR. Once it closes, we have no access to it. As of 6 o'clock, it closed midnight of the 14th, and Crystal was here working until 6 o'clock that evening. And as of 6 o'clock, we had only 1 applicant. And I believe that it's a suitable applicant, being as it's Loretta, who's been acting as the deputy for the last several months. So we'll see how that develops. And we're looking forward to getting that position filled just as soon as we can. It's going through the normal HR processes. The Magic Valley Water Quality Resource Conservation position has now been filled. We are beginning September 27th. Dustin Diaz from Kimberly is joining our team and will be working out of the USDA Service Center in Jerome. And we're working, Loretta's working with him. He'll be here in Boise for onboarding September 27th and 28th, and then going to work in Jerome. And Dustin has a ag ecology or a range ecology degree from the Colorado State University. I believe he's a fairly recent grad, and a young family that he's raising there in Kimberly. And I think Loretta and I are both really excited to have him on. All of us that were involved in the interview process, including our NRCS and district representatives down there. Everybody's pretty pleased that Dustin's joining us. So we'll have the opportunity next month to introduce him, or those that are at Division 4 meeting will have opportunity to meet him anyway. Our South Idaho engineer position, I received some, I'm going to turn that over to Bill to update you on where we're at with that.
All right, thank you, Delwyn. It's been an odyssey. We've had 3 announcements for the position. We've had people that we've wanted to offer or even have offered the position, and as soon as we got to them, they got scooped up by someone else. We just had a guy that I gave an offer to 2 days ago, and he got a better offer and chose it. So we're back to the board again. I've been doing my best to, well, I guess you can call it putting out the fires, but keeping all the engineering moving through the state. It's been a busy time for me. And we do have one more applicant. I need to talk to them. They had some stipulations on employment that I'm not sure we can fulfill, but I should be able to have that conversation today now that our first choice chose to go somewhere else. And if it doesn't work out, we'll try again or start exploring other options. It's been since, well, November last year that we've been trying for this position, and it's difficult. I've talked to my counterparts at DEQ and Idaho Transportation Department, and they're having the same hiring problems. There's just too few people out there looking for positions. And I'm not quite sure what the circumstances are, but it is a system-wide issue. Any questions?
Hey, thank you, Bill. And I'll remind you that I believe I mentioned last month that HR and the governor's office have given us verbal, and I'm not sure if Rachel secured a written commitment from them that we will not lose that FTP if we are unable to fill it by October, I believe the end of October, when it will have been vacant for 1 year. So the state is aware of the challenges with finding engineers and hiring engineers at this point. And we, as the leadership team, Bill and Rachel, Loretta, and myself, we are standing firm on that. We would rather leave it open than hire somebody that's not going to be a good fit. So that's where we're at with that. And Bill, thanks for that update. Are there any questions on the engineer or any other staff issues? I wanted to mention to you that the Office of Species Conservation got a hold of me to ask if Commission would like to provide any comments relative to environmental assessments that they're conducting that are underway right now on the Sawtooth National Forest and the Caribou-Targhee National Forest. They're doing EAs for prescribed fire on those 2 national forests. And today is the deadline for submitting comments relative to the Sawtooth National Forest EA, and sometime into the future is the deadline for Caribou-Targhee comments. So I wanted to inform you of that and give you the opportunity to make comments or to delegate to staff or to one of yourselves the responsibility for drafting some comments if you would like to submit comments for or against that, the concept of prescribed burning. And I included in the packet some handouts from the National Forest, the 2 national forests, on the whole issue and how they hope to use prescribed fire to reduce the risk of wildfire going forward in those 2 national forests. At the end of my report, that's a potential action item if you so choose. Partnership building, again, I'm going to revisit this. We also talked about this last month, but the staff have discussed with NRCS, ISCD, and IDEA leadership the idea of us working together to craft a strategic plan for the Idaho Conservation Partnership. There is general agreement that such an exercise has the potential to build positive working relationships between our respective agencies and enhance the effectiveness of voluntary natural resources conservation in Idaho. In order to move this concept forward, staff need to work with NRCS, ISCD, and IDEA leadership to coordinate and schedule a work meeting during which our board, ISCD directors, IDEA directors, and NRCS leadership can do the work required to develop such a shared strategic plan. At the close of my report, I will recommend you to act to authorize staff to proceed with working with our partners to facilitate this process. Staff spoke via phone with Senate Majority. This is a change of direction, kind of a little different topic, but related to the partnership building. Staff spoke via phone with Senate Majority Caucus Chair Mark Harris, Senate Ag Affairs Committee Chair Van T. Burtenshaw, House Resource and Environment Committee Chair Mark Gibbs, and House Ag Affairs Committee Chair Clark Kaufman about our district outreach efforts of last winter. All acknowledged they had received a report on results of that effort, which we sent to them in May. Staff let them know that commissioners are available to visit with them individually anytime they have suggestions or questions. None had specific questions or suggestions from our agency at that time, but those conversations, I can report to you, were positive, had a positive vibe to them. And I was grateful for the opportunity that each of those legislators gave me to visit with them, and actually heard some positive feedback on where the commission is at and where the commission is headed, and support for our judgment on handling distribution of trustee and benefit funds and related issues. So those were positive interactions by and large. Final thing actually is the commission regular meeting schedule. You see in front of you there, we have our listings session scheduled for November 9th. And in addition to that, will need to have a commission meeting to approve the match funds distributions once we've cleared the comment period, or the period during which districts are able to file for judicial review if they're interested in that. So we'll need a commission meeting to cover that for sure. And I would suggest that we could either schedule it for following the listening session on November 9th, which is scheduled to go through 6 o'clock and may or may not take the entire 2 hours, or we could stick to our previously scheduled November 18th meeting for our November commission meeting. And we can visit about that next month too. Well, when we have a commission meeting scheduled for next month on the 21st. So.
Yeah, Delwyn, that would be good. Commissioner Romer here, because things are still kind of iffy with the COVID thing, and give commission members a little more time between now and October 21st to think about, when they might want to pull together for that meeting that you're suggesting, whether it be on the 9th, if we gather at the IASCD conference, or wait until the 18th. So that'll just be kind of a heads up for us, I guess, huh?
Yes, exactly. Thank you, Commissioner.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
That makes sense. We'll discuss next month. That concludes my report, and the recommended actions are printed in front of you.
Yeah. So I want to talk a little bit about the public comment then, because it looks like, let's see, did you say the deadline for public comment on the sawtooth is today?
Yeah, that's correct, yes.
And so, I mean, that's kind of not very much time to make a comment coming from our agency, is it? I mean, or what did you have in mind? Or do the commission members, would you like to chime in on this a little bit? And how important is it that we make a public comment, Dylan, in your opinion, and what might be the content of that? What might it look like?
Thanks, Commissioner. This is a short time frame to turn some kind of comments around and get them submitted. And the reason it's short is because I just heard about it from Jace at OSC the end of last week or the beginning of this week. And I asked him to please, before this meeting, send me some examples that we could perhaps use as a template for comments. And he looked for comments from the commission on previous NEPA related actions and wasn't able to come up with something. And I didn't hear back from him until this morning that he hadn't been able to find out, to find any of those kind of comments. However, I went to the Sawtooth National Forest website and downloaded the comments that have been submitted to date relative to that EA. And I have those with me this morning, and most of them are just very simple comments. Yeah, we need controlled burns to reduce the risk of wildfire, or no, controlled burns are too risky. They can sometimes get out of control and bad things can result. So there was both sides of the coin. In this case, I would suggest that it's not highly critical that we submit comments, because our comments would be submitted to OSC, who is the state liaison with the U.S. Forest Service on EAs of this nature, and they will bundle them or incorporate whatever comments we put into comments that they are developing themselves and or that they have received from other state agencies, perhaps Fish and Game, perhaps DEQ. I don't know who all they solicit comments from. That's what I know about it, Commissioner.
So speaking of comments, then comments from the commission members on a path forward. I'm inclined to ask staff to draft and submit. I would have no idea at such short notice, where exactly to go with this.
I agree with you. Either that or we could just pass and go on.
Okay, that's kind of what I'm wondering too. So any comments from Wendy or Eric on this?
I mean, I'd be in support of that direction, just passing it. I would be in support of supporting such project, just from my own standpoint and having to deal with fires. But yeah, I think the time frame is short. But I don't know if it's just going to get submitted to OSC. Maybe we could just tack on a support, that we support that, or however the board feels. I don't know, whatever the board consensus is.
So Dylan, because you have listed here, subcommittee, individual commissioner or staff, what are your thoughts on if you were directed to submit a comment on our behalf or behalf of the agency as the administrator? What would you propose to send over to OSC?
Well, I'd be really happy to do that, Commissioner, on your behalf. But I need to hear from you guys. I've heard Eric supports prescribed burning. I need to make sure that you all are in support of that. I could speak to you guys' position on prescribed burning. And if you guys are all in favor of supporting prescribed burning, then I'd be happy, or if you're not, I'd be happy to draft comments. And I don't think that it needs to be any more developed than a simple paragraph.
Than that, okay. Well, I just kind of feel like, since you brought it forward to us, that we should probably do, well, if it's as simple as that, then I would be in favor of that. So I guess, Eric, based on what you mentioned, would you like to make a motion to direct staff?
Yes, Vice Chairman. I would make such a motion to direct staff to draft some comments in support of the prescribed burning in the Caribou, Targhee, and Sawtooth National Forest.
I will second it.
Okay,
Hey, you guys, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Sorry, this is, I'm having to star 6 and I can't, yeah, I'm not being very successful at it. And so I really didn't hear the motion, but I just want to say, as long as our comments, you know, the standard thing that it's got to be well thought out, science-based, everything in place to make sure this is a successful effort, then yeah, I think we should support it. Especially if there's if OSC came to us, maybe they're getting some pressure from folks against the effort, and maybe they need our support. So go ahead, and if you wouldn't mind, I think there was a motion made. It would be great if you could repeat it.
I just made a motion, Wendy, that to support, give OSC our support behind supporting prescribed burning in the Caribou, Targhee, and Sawtooth forests. But yes, I agree with most of the time when they do those burns, they're, you know, late in the fall. So they have the potential for them to run away is not as high. So most of the time sometimes it gets away from a little bit, but not to the point where we're burning millions of acres. So.
Well, one can only hope, that's for sure. But points well taken. And speaking to Wendy's point about pressure for no burning, I think is what you said, Wendy, correct, Commissioner Pratt?
Yeah, I'm just wondering if.
So I would ask Delwyn, any thoughts, Delwyn? Did they express anything like that to you, OSC, in the conversation that you had with them?
They did not. However, I downloaded all 12 of the comments. I believe there was 12 on the Sawtooth National Forest website that the Forest Service has received to date, and 2 of them were anti-burn, and the rest of them were in favor of burning. So that's what I know about that.
Do you have the number?
Okay, very good. So any more discussion on the motion made by Commissioner Olson? All in favor then say aye.
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 And Commissioner, before we leave that, I will reach out to OSC after this meeting and ask their people to please pull us in sooner rather than later when these deadlines are coming up in the future.
Yeah, that would be good, because I mean, anytime we have an opportunity to be supportive or make a comment and, you know, recognize that we're active and paying attention, it's nice to be able to do that. But on such short notice, it makes it a bit difficult. But I think it's fairly simple anyway going forward. Chances are they're going to do it whether we say don't do it or not. So, but it's nice to be able to have that opportunity for input if we get a chance. So,
correct.
Okay.
And like Commissioner Pratt pointed out, it's nice if we are going to submit comments to make them have had the time to develop some thoughtful science-based comments rather than just it.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah.
Thank you.
So second action item then under the administrator's report is listed there. Delwyn is requesting authority for the administrator to work with NRCS, IASCD, and IDEA to coordinate the process of developing a joint strategic plan for the Idaho Conservation Partnership. I would entertain a motion to that effect.
Mrs. Vice Chairman, I will make such a motion.
Okay.
I'll second it.
The motion has, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Must have lost Wendy.
Yeah.
It's just muted.
Okay.
Oh, are you getting the phone connection figured out, Crystal?
Yes,
No,
I can,
let's
so do
finish
you
the
hear me?
vote first, please.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Well,
Can you
Wendy,
hear
did
me?
you hear the, did you hear the motion, Wendy?
I did hear it, and I'm in favor. So yes,
Okay.
aye.
Okay. Apparently none opposed, unanimous ayes. Okay, very good. So motion passes. I think that pretty much takes care of you, Delwyn, does it not? Anything else
It
for
does.
us? That came?
It does,
Okay.
Commissioner.
Madam Vice Chair, we need to call back again because the phone is, the service that we use for the teleconference is dropping the calls again. I've asked Terry Heinrich to Zoom. I don't know if that's a possibility for him, so I need to redial. So give me just a moment.
Okay, very good.
Commissioners, I'd suggest that this, if you would like to, we could move on, jump the RCRDP report and move to Loretta's district support report.
Okay. Any objection to Delwyn's recommendation?
Welcome to Lumen Conferencing. Please
No.
enter
Go right ahead, Delwyn.
by the pound or hash key. I'll connect you.
It might be better, given the technical difficulties, to try and just get Terry Heinrich taken care of so that we don't
Thank you
have
for
to
joining
keep.
Global. When you hear the phone, you will be the person to join the meeting.
Well, it's a little difficult to carry on business when we're having the phone stuff going on.
Okay. The phone is back up. Is Terry Heinrich on the line?
I don't know if Terry is, but Benjamin's back on the line.
Hi, Benjamin. Sorry.
Oh, that's all right.
And I'm back on. Sort of.
But we didn't know that you were with us, Curtis.
Yeah, I've been on for.
You didn't pipe up.
Oh.
I've been having some technical difficulties. I can't get into Zoom and the phone's been cutting me in and out.
We are having technical difficulties, but Curtis, commissioners, Curtis did have a report and he had intended joining later. If we choose, we could have Curtis run through his report now while we're waiting for Terry to get connected.
Hey, you also have your Zoom meeting scheduled for 9/2021.
So is Curtis on with us, Zoom or phone?
Curtis is on the phone.
Yeah, I'm on the phone. I tried to Zoom, but it's like, I think it was Benjamin that mentioned, yeah, it's scheduled for September 8th. And so it wasn't accepting my trying to get on.
Okay.
That's
so
not this Zoom
happened.
meeting.
Okay, I have one last
Same
question.
problem.
I have one last question then before we go forward with Curtis. Did Mr. Heinrich come on either way?
Yeah. I'm on the
So
phone, Commissioner.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. So, let's go ahead. Curtis, what is your schedule? I think you have something at 11. Can you give us a short and sweet report? So Mr. Heinrich, hold off here a little bit. We had to postpone Curtis. So go right ahead, Curtis, with NRCS, the partnership report. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And always a pleasure to address you all. Good morning. And lots going on, as you can imagine. I'll keep it to the big stuff that are going on right now. First, I'd like to introduce Mr. Darvis Jordan. He's our management and strategy specialist for grants and agreement. he is going to be my stand-in whenever I cannot make it to one of these meetings. He's going to be in my behalf to give a report out to the commission, but I will be your primary point of contact as always and make every meeting that I possibly can. So thanks to Darvis, and I believe he is on this call as well with us this morning. Also, I wanted to talk about we have a cooperative agreement with you all. We have $180,000 still in that agreement, and we're we had 3 positions previously, and we decided not to continue in rehiring those 3 positions. However, with that in mind, this agreement is still intact and will be intact until June of 2022. I'm just wondering if there's some way we can reimburse you all with some engineering assistances that are provided to NRCS through some of the engineers that you currently have in place. And I realize you're in the process of hiring additional engineers yourself, but I really want to utilize this $180,000 that we have sitting on the table here for you all the best we can. And with the engineering workloads that we have in the state and backlog we have in the state, it just makes sense to perhaps utilize these funds in the very best way possible rather than just see them just dissipate. So that's a lot of money to be just sitting on the table. So any discussion or on that, I guess I would entertain any questions in regards to that agreement that we have with you all, and maybe some ideas on how we might be able to utilize these funds.
Commissioners, Darvis, Curtis, and I met here in our office to sign the MOAs a couple of days ago, and this came up. We were brainstorming ways we could get more technical assistance out to districts, and Darvis mentioned that the CTA agreement, under which we had hired 3 NRCS soil cons. I believe they were all soil cons beginning in 2017, that agreement is still in place, and there is roughly $180,000 sitting in it for fiscal 22. One of the challenges, so Curtis has been working and Darvis has been working on their end and coming up with ideas, and we, as the leadership team here in the commission, met yesterday and discussed it, and there are some challenges with that. One of the challenges is that we no longer have that expense index for that federal source of funds. So we would have to secure a spending authority and a new, that initiate that expense index in our budget for this year. And Rachel reports that that's doable, but it's not a given. So it's something we would have to struggle with. And Curtis's suggestion that NRCS reimburse the commission for commission staff assistance with farm bill programs. The problem with that is that our staff every hour of our staff's time through the end of this fiscal year has already been allocated to other tasks. So that really isn't a viable option. And previous to this meeting, I was drafting a response to Curtis's latest email informing Curtis of that situation, and particularly our engineering, being as we have one engineer at present servicing districts all across the state. Bill definitely doesn't have time to be working on farm bill EQIP projects or that kind of thing.
So, Dylan, this is Commissioner Romer. I have a quick question, though. You brought up, pardon me, 2 points as to why Curtis's recommendation or suggestion might not be attainable. But the first point that you brought up, you said was potentially doable. Now, what do you mean? Expound on that a little bit. I mean, because if there's money there and it's potentially doable,
Yeah.
shouldn't we explore it a little bit?
Definitely, Commissioner. Thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, I think we need to continue to explore it. What isn't doable is assigning our staff to help with Farm Bill programs through the end of this fiscal year. But we still, the possibility is still there, I believe, Curtis and Darvis, the possibility for us to payroll, hire some NRCS technical assistance provider, a soil con or an engineer or whatever. And so we are looking at that. And Curtis and Darvis, there is also in the terms and conditions of that agreement, section 3E there, Bill brought to my attention that it looks like there's the possibility for extending the agreement for up to 12 months beyond the end of this, beyond the end of June 2022. And I would think that if that actually is a possibility, and if NRCS could get that extension and we can get the spending authority, I think there's great potential that we can work together to get some more help to districts and NRCS teams around the state.
Okay, and that was kind of my question too, is how long is that money available? And I think you've answered that. So, okay, yeah, I just had a couple questions on that. So thank you. Continue, Curtis.
Yeah, so I'll just reiterate, yes, if there's a will, I mean, if there's a way that we want to do this, I definitely recommend that we pursue all avenues to try to utilize these funds best way we can. If we can do an extension on this, most certainly we'll entertain that as well. If that's what we need to do. And yes, hiring new staff of your own to do some of this work for us, that's another definitely a good avenue to go down. And yeah, surely we can't just keep loading Bill, with workload and all that. I know we spread pretty darn thin right now, but yeah, I'm open to suggestions and whatever you all are open to as well. This is a partnership type of a cooperative agreement, and we just need to both be on the same page on this. But I think we can find some answers and utilize these funds in some way, shape, or form. I've also have mentioned to Delwyn as well in our meeting a couple days ago that possibly doing some pilot areas in the state where we have a heavier engineering workload, and doing a new agreement with some of these soil and water conservation districts coming together more from a team perspective. As you know, we have 17 teams in the state of Idaho, 17 NRCS teams, and providing additional funding to hire for the district to come together within those teams and hire in the engineer or a planner are the two areas of focus that I really want to identify and invest in, is the engineers and the conservation planners. So if there's an opportunity to perhaps do a pilot with some of these teams within the state where we have a higher workload, I'm open to some suggestions on that as well for this next year's funding goal. Then moving on here, just real quickly, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention something about COVID. We're still in a pandemic. Idaho, unfortunately, is in a spike situation right now. We have several offices that have been put in a threshold of 25% full-time employee capacity right now, from 50% to 25%, based on the spike figures that we have within our state. So we continue to work through that and still get the work done by going out in the field, but keeping our staff and partners and visitors all safe is my number one priority and will remain my number one priority in these situations here. But it's challenging. I will say, you know, just for example, we have, we're trying to address some wildfire assessments, and we have a bedrock fire up by Nez Perce and in that part of the state. And we had initially, you know, put together a team of people to go up there and assess the damages and that. And I had to, just this morning, I had to retract that team and only send one person up there to assess the damages and that. So it's creating challenges for us here in the state, but we're working through it, working on it. And then the last thing is just to keep this short. The last thing is we continue to hire people within the state, mainly soil conservationists and engineers are the two positions that we're predominantly hiring within the state. The budget for next year is looking pretty good. I mean, very good, to the fact that we may see you know, some significant increases in funding next year, and to the part that I'm strategizing a plan for next fiscal year on if we were to receive additional funds to the extent that I'm hearing, how would we spend them? And this is where, and this is why I bring up the suggestion for a new agreement with the commission or with the Stormwater Conservation District. Definitely want to and have you in my mind on how we can strengthen our relationship, work together on a new agreement, and such. So I think I'll stop there because I did say that I'd keep it short. Any questions?
Well, yeah, my thoughts exactly. Any questions at this time from anyone for Curtis based on what he's presented today? Okay, hearing none. Well, thank you so much, Curtis, for joining us, and we'll get round to you next time then.
Yep, my pleasure. You all have a great day.
Okay, thank you, sir. So moving on to item number 7, Mr. Hobel-Heinrich, are you still with us?
Yes, I am.
Sure. Oh, okay. And I just want to say, I said I was going to have to drop off early, so this is when I will have to do that. I've got something coming up that needs my attention. So, Mr. Chairman, if I could turn the meeting over to you at this time.
Oh, geez, thanks.
Okay. Anyway, I'm sorry I have to leave. You know, I've not done this before, but I've just had some issues come up that, like I say, need my attention. And thank you so very much, Delwyn. I'll get back with you maybe for some chat on some of these things later then. So good day to you all, and thank you very much.
Thank you,
Okay.
Commissioner.
Delwyn, on your recommended actions, I don't think we talked about item number 2 before Curtis came in, did we?
We did.
Did we already take care of that?
The authority to. Did you
Yeah.
do that?
I thought you guys voted on that. I stepped out of the room for a minute, but I thought I heard a motion and a vote.
I don't know that we did actually, Norman.
I didn't think we did.
Okay, well, I'll make the motion, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
I move to give the authority for the administrator to work with NRCS, ISCD, and IDEA to coordinate the process of developing a joint strategic plan for the Idaho Conservation Partnership.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Mr. Olson, second by Ms. Pratt. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Okay, opposed, same sign, motion carried. Okay, now moving on to Mr. Hobel-Heinrich, I believe.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm here to give you an update as far as the RCRDP program. It's been, I think it's probably been not quite a month since the change in interest rate. What I've done is we updated all the print advertising with Ag Proud, Farm Bureau, and Intermountain Farm and Ranch. Sent a notice of the interest rate update to the district and our staff and the NRCS staff. The voice office was kind enough to forward that on to the NRCS staff. Website is updated with new interest rate. And I also had called some past and current borrowers to let them know about the new rate, which we had some there as well. So to date, since the fiscal year, I have listed 14 loan inquiries. A lot of those came recently. We're actually up to 17 now. I got received 3 applications. Got a couple of those just about finished. And then there's several that I'm just waiting for them to apply. So have 3 essentially 4 in process. Haven't approved any as of yet. So the interest rates, as you know, reduced those by 1.5% with the 7 and 10 and 15-year loans in August. But what I was asking for the commissioners to do is there were several other rates that we typically have that are variations of that. If the commission would be so inclined to approve those as well, just to clarify our rate schedule. As you may recall, we have, the commission had implemented a number of years ago an option where the loan officer would have the discretion to offer with a higher interest rate of just a 1/4 point more for the given term if the loan was undersecured, but they needed to have all the other credit factors to be good and to be strong. So that's where you see the 7-year at 1.25% and the 10-year at 1.5% and the 15-year at 1.75%. The other portion that I was asking the commissioners to consider is on our, we have second mortgages. Now, we haven't written one in a long time. In fact, I've never written one in 11 years, 10 years I've been here. But there was a combination, one where if someone put in, for example, Pivot, and they wanted to offer a second mortgage, so we'd have some of our collateral would be first lien and some of the second. We would offer like a 3.5%. In the past, that was a 5%. So again, that's a 1.5% reduction. And then just a straight second mortgage in the past, it was next. It was offered at 6%. And again, dropping at 1.5%, that would go to 4.5%. And that's just a straight, our entire security is a second mortgage. And again, that's on a case-by-case basis. No matter what, the commission should look at that. So, commissioners, if you have any questions about this report, I'm open to answering anything you may want to know, or if you want to discuss the interest rate.
Commissioners, any questions for him?
No, I have none.
Yeah, this is Wendy. Terry, we talked about the possibility of you attending some district meetings or having direct contacts with some of the DCs and some of the regions. What are you thinking about that now? You know, since this rate change, what are you thinking now?
Well, any of those visits with the districts, I assume would be in the winter. You know, now a harvest, there wouldn't be anyone around. I don't know. I mean, the fact that I guess I hadn't thought any more about that. It was still in the plan, but you know, and I've called some of the well, I guess I still call them DCs, but you know, I've called and talked to them and just so that they're aware. But you know, I can still do that and find out if there's anything that they would like to see and do. I'd probably do that, like you say, calling in, not necessarily in person. One, the travel, and 2, the COVID concerns. But so I don't know if that answered your question, but
yeah, I guess I just would encourage you to keep track of those meetings, and when they start up again, to try to zoom in and there, you know, I don't know how much it will help, but it's if you're able to, I'd like to see you do that. And there will be an NRCS person on those calls. There should be anyway. So yeah, just that's my thought anyway. We need to keep trying to get the word out. We need to keep trying to get the word out. That's what I was trying to say.
Along that same line, we need to check with Curtis. A lot of times when they have a Boise ISCD conference, he calls in and has a meeting with all of his district conservationists. We might find out if that's going to be his plan. If, of course, it's probably pretty fluid with COVID, but if he does have that, or maybe he'll have a Zoom conference with them, the ones that are missing, we might want to see if we can tag along into that.
Commissioner, I can check on that. So,
okay.
Commissioners, one thing I guess I might add, it's not directly related to this, but just kind of a couple of comments. Anecdotally, when I told some of the people the interest rate, it was some were quite shocked at how much it had changed. You know, that was a good shock, I guess. I won't repeat. Some of them were probably not ready for prime time. They were pretty amazed and essentially said it was a no-brainer. The other thing that I have noticed is there is a pretty rapid and dramatic change in the pricing of the equipment. I was going to ask Curtis some questions, but he was on pretty short. You know, he needed to go, so I just held that. But at some point, would like to ask him. But just to give you a perspective, we had an applicant this spring. He applied. He wasn't quite ready. He was trying to get it done in a hurry. So long story short, he delayed it till he got some more analysis done, and we've since approved that. But he had an August quote, and that small pivot, the pivot portion, not the ancillary, but the pivot portion was about $43,000. Well, the August update was $45,000, not that big of a change. The September update went to $60,000. So the equipment is going, and that's a 39% increase. So the equipment is increasing dramatically, and that's going to factor in, I believe, with some of these producers. And of course, the challenge with that with some of these guys is that if they have an equip contract, those values are locked in. So any increase, if we can loan more, assuming there's more value in collateral, we can loan more. But if it's some of the stuff like pipe, then we can't, and essentially that comes out of that farmer has to come up with their own funds. But the quotes are also, they're only good for the day they're given. They literally won't honor those beyond the day that they're offered. So, and it's just, I know one salesman was, he was frustrated because there's nothing he could do. The costs just keep going up. So pretty dramatic change in that market. So that may affect people's ability to proceed with equip contracts. And I've asked about if they can delay that. We spoke to the equip program manager, and she said there was an option where that could be delayed a year, possibly two. And in light of the drought as well, that between those costs, I mean, that certainly would be helpful, but it may not be enough. And we may see people, delay installing projects while these costs are going up.
So
Okay.
I have a comment, Norman.
Go ahead, Wendy.
I just learned that, I was flying out of Pocatello, flew over the American Falls area, And it really stood out to me that there wasn't as many pivots as I thought. I mean, you're used to seeing those circles. And these were just laid out rectangles. And I was flying with a loan officer from the local ag credit branch there, and he said that they're converting back to wheel lines from pivots because the ground is so expensive, they can't afford to waste any square footage, which really surprised me. I had no idea that was going on. And I just thought it might be of interest, and you may get an inquiry, Terry, about converting from pivots back to wheel lines. So I just thought that was worth mentioning.
Chairman Wright, Commissioner Pratt, I have commented about that before, seeing that these pivots, especially these smaller ones, the capital cost per acre is really high. And I've questioned how, when land is at 10,000 or 13,000 an acre, how they can afford to idle the corners. Yes, there's a yield response if they're going from flood or furrow irrigation to pivot, but and it can be a pretty dramatic one. But I do think that's an issue. And what I've often wondered, though, is instead of a wheel line, if they would go to a linear system. That has its own problems, but again, as that land becomes more expensive, it's pretty difficult, I would think, to pencil that out, to idle that land.
There is another reason too that they're doing that. It's got to do with labor. Many of these people, need all their labor they can do during harvest season, and they have to go out on the market and try and find those people. If they're using wheel lines, they have those people already there because they're the ones that are changing the wheel lines. And so that's another benefit that they're looking at. They'd rather keep that person on year round, moving those wheel lines so they have them available for harvest time.
Interesting.
So it's, I think a lot of what Wendy said too is those corners of the wheel lines, they get 100% of the farm ground and don't have to do a solid set, which is very expensive in the corners. And so there is some options there too. Okay, back to, I believe Mr. Homo-Heinrich would like for us to take something on this interest rate recommendations, those others that kind of fell in between. Is that correct, Mr. Homo-Heinrich?
Yes, Mr. Chair, if you could please consider that as a possible action.
Okay, would someone like to make that motion?
I'll let Wendy, if you're on, Wendy.
Well, I think, Eric, I guess I'd like you to. I don't feel like it'd help if Terry would restate that.
Terry, would you like to restate that? Would you like for us to?
I couldn't hear that. Commissioners, what I'm asking for is if you would so move to approve the RCRDP interest rate as recommended in my memo. Is that what you were asking, Commissioner Pratt?
Yeah, but I can't see the memo.
Oh, well, I can see it, Wendy. I'll make the motion, Terry. It's just basically filling in the gaps between, some different terms of qualifications is all. Nothing drastic, just a 0.25% on each one of them, Wendy. It looks good to me. So I'll make the motion.
Okay, thank you, Eric. Wendy, second.
Okay, I'll make the second.
Okay. We have a motion by Mr. Olson, second by Ms. Pratt. Do we have any further question? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Motion carries. District support must be Loretta's turn.
Yes, thank you, Chairman Wright. Good morning. So I think Delwyn covered the new hire that I was going to cover in the district support summary update, so we can just skip past that. We're very excited to have Dustin on board. So we'll move on to the staff recommended match. After reviewing all of the district financial and match reports that were submitted, I developed my recommendations of which local support was eligible for match, and then I sent that back out to districts, staff, and supervisors on August 30th. To date, I didn't hear back questions or comments from anybody, so that's good. This year, the difference between what I recommended as eligible and the value of support that was reported by districts was only $15,969.60. And this year that was just due to two factors, criteria not being met. The majority of that was from a district not being able to get that check deposited into their account prior to the June 30, 2021 deadline. And then for another criteria, a portion of the county funds had a designation for projects on their support. So eligibility to receive match funding is, of course, as we know, based on criteria established by IDAPA. 600501 subchapter B, and then we also detail it out in the reference manual. The dog update, the district allocation work group met via Zoom on September 8th. Participating dog members were Tom Daniel from Boundary, representing Division 1, Julie Burkhart out of Adams, representing Division 3, Jennifer Jensen from Bear Lake for Division 4, and then your very own Commissioner Eric Olson. And we greatly appreciate the commitment that these guys and the time they take to review these reports and help us accomplish this task of being transparent and fair when we allocate the match. Prior to the meeting, all the dog members were sent the reports on a flash drive, so we were able to review the reports in the meeting one by one. And I recorded the voice vote of each member for each district, and so that they thought the match was eligible. And this year, the district or my staff recommendations and the dog recommendations were identical. And that is provided for you in attachment 8-1, the joint dog and staff recommendations. Then after the dog, I sent their recommendations back out to all districts and encouraged them to provide comments or questions and encourage them to participate in this meeting. And we didn't have any comments or feedback. So that's a good sign. So moving on to the recommended November distribution of available fiscal year 22 match funds. For fiscal year 22, we have $1,428,100 of state general funds appropriated for distribution to districts. To date, as I mentioned last time, we have disbursed $725,000 as district base and operation allocations, leaving that $703,100 available for distribution to districts in the form of match. And if you approve the match recommendation presented here, the recommended match fund allocation for each district will be entered in attachment 8-2, recommended district match allocations for November 2021 distribution. And then your action today to approve the match allocation does trigger the beginning of that 28-day judicial period where anybody who doesn't agree can file a petition for judicial review. And then at the end of the 28 days, if there's no judicial reviews pending, staff can begin the process to get the district match allocations out to districts early November. And by my calculations, the 28 days will end October 14th. I don't know if you guys would like to vote on, or we can come back to you on October 21st to approve to get those funds out instead of trying to do it during conference. That's up to you guys, but I just thought I'd point that out. We're kind of early. We're ahead of schedule this year because of the way your September meeting fell. Any questions?
I think that we should just go ahead and get this stuff out to these districts that are kind of hurting a little bit. So I move that we approve the district allocation for fiscal year 2022 for match funding. Unless there's any objection to that.
Yeah, is there any downside, Loretta, to doing it now?
I don't think so. Maybe Delwyn has some comment on that.
Commissioners, there's no downside and there's no reason we can't distribute the funds early. The only thing is we do have that 28 or that 28-day window for judicial review, and so we will not invoice for those funds until after that 28-day window is closed to make sure that we don't get the cart in front of the horse, so to speak. But there's no reason why, as soon as that 28-day period ends, we can't immediately and expeditiously get those funds invoiced and on the way out.
Okay, so I think back to Eric's point, we might as well go ahead and make a motion. Was that a motion, Eric?
Yes.
Okay,
Wendy,
I
would
will
you-
second that.
Thank you very much. We have a motion on the floor by Olson, a second by Pratt. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. Good work, Loretta.
Thank you. So at your October 21 meeting, that judicial period should be closed. So you will know at that meeting whether there was any appeals.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on.
That brings us to the minutes, Mr. Chair.
Okay, with the minutes of Thursday, August 19th meeting. Does anybody have any question concerning that meeting? If not, I'll accept a motion to approve it.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Wendy.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Eric. Further question? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, pose same sign, motion carried. Finance reports. Aha, we see a new face here.
Okay.
There she is. Hello, Rachel.
Good morning. Still morning. Okay, so start here with the financial report memo. The commissioner honorariums, we're in good standing. We've spent about 19%. Of course, a good chunk of it was for the last meeting. This month we'll just be going over the financial reports as of the end of August 31st. We can start at the top left. General fund personnel expenditures, we're 17% into the fiscal year. You can see we're at just over 12% of our personnel funds expended, and of course that's due to vacancies, most notably the engineering position. Our operating expenditures, we've expended approximately 23% of our operating funds out of general funds, and that's due in a large part to the beginning of the year invoices, which I have a stack that Crystal's processed as well, so, that you'll see another good chunk coming through here for September. So we're sitting about 23%, but that's perfectly normal for this time of year because a lot of our large expenditures come out right away. Trustee and benefits, as Loretta just stated, we've issued $725,000 of that so far, about half. And no cash receipts in general fund as of today. Are there any questions on the operating expenditures for August? Okay, we'll move on to professional services. There has been no activity as of today for this fiscal year, so nothing has changed there. RCRDP, personnel expenditures at just over 14% of our budgeted funds expended in personnel. Operating expenditures is, I believe, we've expended just not even 4% of our estimated operating expenditures for ICRDP. Move over to cash receipts. We've received just under $20,000 this fiscal year to date. And of course, have issued, I believe it was one payment for a new loan, as you can see under the balance sheet on the right there, the $10,900. Are there any questions under RCRDP? We'll move down to the revolving loan, the DEQ loan. There have been no expenditures made out of that. This is pretty simple. We've got a little bit of interest income under the cash section, the $12 there so far this year. And there have been no payments received or paid out to DEQ. Are there any questions on the DEQ revolving loan? All right, I guess with that, we'll go ahead and move forward to the summary report. Okay, and a big chunk of this is just a reiteration from the last report that we just looked at. So the top left, under general fund personnel expenditures, we've expended a dollar amount of $161,221 so far. And pulling from our payroll projection, our projected expenditures are just over $1 million left for the fiscal year. We're still looking at some remaining funds, of course, mostly due to vacant positions. The RCRDP personnel expenditures, we've expended almost $26,000 so far this fiscal year. Moving down to operating funds, general fund expenditures projected are about $226,000. Professional services, nothing has been expended out of that, and hopefully we won't need to utilize that fund this year. Moving over to RCRDP, we've expended about $6,000. And the revolving loan, as I said before, nothing has occurred there either. Under trustee and benefit expenditures, we still have the remaining $703,100 that Loretta was just talking about. And other than that, are there any questions at all on the financial summary or anything to do with the financials as of the end of August?
Any questions, commissioners?
Mr. Chairman, may I?
Yes, go ahead, Bill.
Rachel, for the professional services, what is our spending authority?
The spending authority under operating is $30,000.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, commissioners, do I have a motion to approve the financial summary through August 31st?
Well, I just have one quick question.
You bet, Wendy.
So we have on that 30,000, is that expenditures projected? What does that mean, Rachel?
That just means our spending authority as granted for FY22 from our budget request. So we are allowed to spend up to that. That's not a projection. That is just our allowable amount that we can expend for the fiscal year.
And we don't expect to?
No.
Okay, thanks.
Uh-huh.
I can make a motion to accept that.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Okay, a second. We have a motion by Wendy, a second by Eric to approve the financial summary through August 31st. Further question? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Okay. Further motion carried. Okay. Thank you.
Chairman, could I break in for just a quick moment?
I guess.
Terry Hobelheinrich, if you can hear me, is there a chance you can mute your device there. We're getting a lot of
That's
construction.
not Terry. It was Eric's.
Oh, is that
background
Eric? I'm sorry, Terry.
Sorry, I had it open for the voting, and the wife's in here clanging and banging around, cleaning stuff up.
Sure, blame it on her. You're awful brave man.
Thank you, Eric and Terry. I apologize. I misidentified the source of that. Thanks, Eric.
Okay. Go ahead, Rachel.
Okay. So we felt it was necessary to put in something regarding the budget request modification. Some of the figures did change from the approved figures, and we believe may have been out of the scope of minor changes. So when it came down to submitting the FY 2023 budget request, which was submitted on time on September 1st, some of the figures did end up changing as a result of various discussions. Now, we are allowed to submit requests for revisions until 5 p.m. on Friday, October 22nd. So if there are figures that are not agreed upon or we feel need to be changed even further, we can submit a request to have those figures revised prior to that deadline. So the revised budget request figures that were submitted were the actual calculations for personnel. So the first chart here is the figures that were actually requested, put in for the budget request. And the previous figures that were approved are on the second chart for everybody's reference. So the personnel figures are slightly different, not a lot. After the actual worksheets were filled out for those, the figure came in at a little bit less than what we had originally anticipated for personnel requests. Operating is where the biggest changes are. Operating and trustee and benefits. Operating, as Dylan was discussing earlier, we removed the amount for the correct direct match. So that was not submitted along with the FY 2023 request, as it was discussed to have that addressed later on. And then we asked for a minor increase, the same thing we discussed earlier at last month's meeting. We did a minor increase for inflationary purposes and operating for both general fund and dedicated fund. So the biggest change there was that the CREP funds were taken out. And the other major change was that we did put in an amount for increasing the trustee and benefits funds, as Dylan again discussed earlier. And so we put in a request for an additional $74,300 in trustee and benefit funds, which brought us up to just under the cap amount that we were allowed to put in our budget request, with a remaining amount of $43. So are there any questions here on the changes that were made to the FY 2023 budget request for the agency?
You got any questions? If not,
I don't have any questions. I just have a comment that I like to see. This ought to make everybody happy to see trustee and benefit number above the personnel number. So that was been a lot of heartburn for a lot of years. So I think that ought to please everybody.
okay. Rachel, I assume you want us to approve the revised budget request?
Yes, my recommended action is to approve the FY 2023 budget request as submitted, granting authority to the administrator to make minor revision requests if necessary.
Okay.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Eric.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Wendy. We have a motion on the floor by Eric, a second by Wendy. Further question? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Okay. Motion carried. Okay, moving on. I'm looking at adjournment. Is that about right?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay. No other questions before the board? Hearing none. I think we are adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Gary, thank you, Wendy. Everybody else, thank you. See you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.